Hi, this is Elliot Eisenberg here to catch you up to date on the latest in residential sales data for March. In Hillsborough County, single-fam home prices declined 3%. On the multifam side, they declined a little more, 3.4%, but that was the best performance across all three counties for multifamily. Sales activity increased on the single-fam side by 8.3%. That was the strongest increase across all three counties and both types of properties. Multifamily sales activity declined 19.3%. Sales price as a percentage of list price weakened for both single and multifamily. It's now down to 97.1 for single family and a weaker 95.1 for multifamily. Pending sales activity increased for single fam like it did in all three counties, up 2.2, whereas multifam pending sales activity declined here like it did in the other counties by 6.4% in this case. Inventory, months of inventory is now 3.6% for single fam. That's the lowest, but it's up from 2.7 a year ago. Multifam inventory is now 5.5 months, up from 3.5. Clearly, multifamily is underperforming single family here in Hillsborough and in the other counties as well. In Pasco County, single-fam home prices increased 2.1%. That was the only county and the only type of property that saw an increase in sales price. Multifam home prices slid 9.2%. Sales activity increased on the single-fam side like it did everywhere else, here up 2.6%, and on the multifam side it declined like it did in the other two counties by a meaningfully large 17.6%. Sales price as a percentage of list price declined here as well as the other counties. On the single fam slide, it slid to 96.3 and it fell to 95.7 on the multifam side. Pending sales activity here also increased on the single family side like it did in the other two counties, up 10.9, and slid on the multifam side like it did in the other counties by a large 26.3%. Lastly, active inventory increased here like it did everywhere else. On the single family side, inventory is now 3.7 months. And on the multifam side, it's larger at 4.2. Here, as in the other counties, multifamily is clearly underperforming single family. In Pinellas County, single-fam home prices slipped 5.6%. Multifam home prices slipped a little more, 8.3%. Sales activity increased here on the single-family side like it did in the other two counties, up 2.7%, and it declined like it did in the other two counties here by 11.8%. That was, however, the smallest multifamily decline across all three counties. Sales price as a percentage of list price slipped here for both types of properties like it did everywhere else. For single family, that ratio is now 94.7. For multifamily, it's a little weaker at 93.4. Pending sales for single family units rose 4.4. It rose in the other two counties as well. And it slipped for multifamily. It slipped by 5.6%. It also slipped in Hillsborough and Pasco counties. Lastly, inventory on the single family side is now 4.5 months, and it's an even much larger 8.1 months for multifamily. Here, as elsewhere, multifamily is underperforming single family. Turning our attention to the national economy, GDP continues to weaken. A couple quarters ago, GDP was 3.1%. In the fourth quarter of last year, it was about 2.4%. This quarter, I don't think it even reaches 1%. Because GDP is weakening, inflation is also weakening. It's not at the Fed's level of 2%, the desired level of 2%, but it's getting pretty close. Unfortunately, unemployment is beginning to tip up. It's still quite low at 4.2%, but it's clearly showing signs of weakening under the surface. People are taking longer to find jobs, there are fewer jobs that are open, and so on and so forth. As a result of this mildly rising unemployment rate with slowing inflation certainly gives the Fed reasons to cut rates. However, they're not doing it right now because of the fear of tariffs. Tariffs are likely to push inflation up and make unemployment worse. But no one knows how long the tariffs will be in place, how high they'll be, when they'll end, and so on. So the Fed, like a lot of other places, businesses and so on, is in wait and see mode. Let's see what happens with tariffs. Let's see how inflationary they are, and we'll act accordingly. As a result, I suspect they're not going to cut rates at the next meeting, but they'll cut rates at the meeting after that. And they'll probably, over the course of the second half of the year, and in their entirety, probably cut rates certainly twice and possibly 3 times. Despite the fact that markets expect the Fed to cut rates 2 or maybe 3 times, long-term rates really haven't done anything. And that's because of the inflationary fears that accompany tariffs. Tariffs are clearly going to raise prices by raising the cost of imported goods and so on and so forth. So we'll see what happens. I suspect that eventually long-term rates will come down, but not anytime soon. Lastly, in terms of recession expectations, I think they've continued to rise and are now somewhere around 40%, up from 35% a month or two ago, and as low as 20% at the beginning of the year.